Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, members of the committee for hearing me. Jen Villavicencio, Dr. Jen Villavicencio. I'm a chief resident, an obstetrician gynecologist, and I take care of your constituents 80 hours a week for free. I do their pap smears, I deliver their babies, and I perform their appointments. I am here to speak in opposition to House Bill 5100. You may have heard that the maternal mortality rate in the United States is increasing. It's on the rise, particularly in states like Texas, where there's been an unprecedented number of anti-abortion bills passed in the last few years. This upward trend is comparable to some of the most undeveloped countries in the world. We currently rank 60th globally for maternal mortality rate. This increase is complex and multifactorial and cannot be attributed to just one cause. But we should be doing everything we possibly can to reverse this trend and protect American mothers so they may protect their children. At the core of protecting women and their families is ensuring that they have no barriers to access basic health care. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, ACOG, an organization that I proudly represent, has unequivocally stated that abortion is health care. They have also stated that ACOG opposes any governmental interference that threatens communications between patients and their physicians or causes a physician to compromise his or her medical judgment about what information or treatment is in the best interest of the patient. It is our responsibility to Rhode Island women, my responsibility as their physician, and your responsibility as their representatives, to ensure that there is no interference from legislation or other parties into a woman's relationship and decision-making relationship with her physician. This bill creates a dangerous environment for patients by preventing doctors from having every option available when providing care. In some cases, this would jeopardize fertility, and this could jeopardize a woman's life. We have known since before 1973, when Roe versus Wade was decided, that when women have access to safe abortion care, unhindered by undue burden of laws and social stigma, women die less. Women are safer when abortion is legal. Dilation and evacuation, the procedure that is to be made illegal by this bill, is one of the safest medical procedures. It is as safe as a colonoscopy. The other options that were mentioned by my other constituents are less safe. They put women at higher risk for bleeding and for infection. I would like to speak to, since I perform these procedures, I would like to speak to why we would perform these procedures. It's not because they're cheaper, it's because they're safer. I would also like to speak to, since we had a couple of questions about fetal pain, there is no national organization that accepts the science that was presented to you. ACOG has an unequivocal statement that the fetus cannot feel pain prior to viability. This is the science that all of your national organizations abide by. I also just want to state that when I have a woman and I am counseling her, I definitely educate her regarding the procedure that she's about to undergo. And women have myriad reasons for undergoing an abortion. And it's not necessarily desperation, and it's not necessarily confusion. Making this procedure illegal only leaves women with less safer options. This bill seeks to fundamentally interfere with my ability to interact with my patients. This is the government telling doctors that they know how to practice medicine better than the hundreds of years of medical training that I represent. I know you would want your family members to have unhindered access to their physicians without the government telling their doctors what to do. That's all I'm asking for Rhode Island women. Let's make sure that Rhode Island is one of the states in this country that is helping move us forward into a safer place for moms and not backwards into the deadly past. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Any questions from others? Representative Bell-Wilkins.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Doctor, could you please explain to me What do you precisely say to a woman who's coming in for an abortion? What do you tell her about the procedure, and what, if anything, do you tell her about the preborn infant that's about to be aborted?
Has she already decided that she would like her to terminate the pregnancy, or is she deciding?
I'd like to hear what you say in both cases.
Okay, so a woman comes to my office with a positive pregnancy test. I ask her how she feels about the positive pregnancy test. Based on that answer, I proceed with either going forward with my prenatal care if she says that she's happy about it, or if she says that she's unhappy about it, I ask her why. And then I continue down the path with the woman based on what her personal scenario is and what her personal situation is. If we arrive at the place where she is interested in having an abortion, I discuss all of the different options with her based on her gestational age. Over 95% of abortions that are performed in this country are in the first trimester. They are not in the second trimester. And so the options there are medical or surgical. And so typically my counseling is around medical abortion or surgical abortion, and the differences between the two, the risks and benefits of the two.
Not to beat a dead horse, but could you, if I was this person that was seeking abortion, what words would you actually say with regards to the procedure of the abortion itself?
Would you role play with me then?
Yes, I
a
would
little bit?
absolutely.
Okay. So I understand that you're interested in ending your pregnancy.
I'm thinking about it, yes.
Okay. Can you tell me why that would be?
I just feel that it's too expensive to have a second child.
I'm very sorry that you're in this position. Have you heard anything about abortion?
Yes, I've heard a lot of things about abortion.
What types of things have you heard?
Well, I've heard that it's a medical procedure. I'm hearing a lot of things about whether or not the baby would actually feel anything. So I'm kind of confused about what is going to happen.
It's actually a really common concern. Do you know anybody in your family or any of your friends that have ever had an abortion?
Yes, I had a couple of friends in high school that had abortions.
And what were their experiences like?
Although they said that they were relieved at the beginning, they didn't celebrate, but they recognized the anniversary of the abortion, very, very depressed, and they were very sad about it. One was not able to have children, just turned out that way for her.
So about, I hear your concerns, and those are definitely some stories that I've heard before. I'd like to address them head on if that's okay with you.
Sure.
In terms of regret, less than 1% of women who have abortions regret their abortions. They certainly exist, but it's very, very rare. It's actually rarer than some of the possibilities of bleeding or needing a transfusion. And in terms of not being able to have babies later, that actually is even rarer than regretting your abortion. The types of procedures that we do, I'm assuming that you're in the first trimester, the procedures that we do are very unlikely to cause the scarring in the uterus that would prevent you from having children in the future. But I understand why those might be concerns to you.
So you're telling me that after you have aftercare, so if I decide to go for an abortion, that someone from your organization is going to contact me to see if I've had any regret?
So we do have nursing who will contact you after the procedure, whether it's medical or surgical. And then in addition, we offer quite a few different counseling options if it's something that you're concerned about. I have cards right here in my pocket that I can give you. They're actually completely non-judgmental. If you're not sure about your decision, we absolutely can give you those as well. It's a hotline that you can call.
How often are you going to come back to me and ask me whether or not I'm experiencing regret at that time, point in time in my life?
So it would really be up to you whether you would want me to come and talk to you. I would be more than happy to do that, but I wouldn't want to put that burden on you, and I wouldn't want to come and ask you constantly if you regretted the procedure that you had. If you came back to me and wanted to talk about it, I would be more than willing to do that.
How many people actually do follow up with counseling? What percentage of women actually are coming back to counseling?
That receive abortions? I don't know that the data exists.
But you know that only 1% of the women that submit themselves to an abortion feel regret? How can you come up with that number?
There have been numerous studies that show that. And I can provide them for you if you'd like. It's a very well documented number.
I've got a problem with this because I truly feel, as a Roman Catholic, that when there's a heartbeat, that's a little person inside of me. And I feel that while I don't condone the death penalty, that this is the death penalty. How can I change my mind about that and seek an abortion and then believe that I'm not going to have any regret after doing that?
It's a personal decision. It's a personal decision for everyone. I grew up Roman Catholic as well, and I have searched both my soul and my faith, as well as my family and my community, as well as all of the available evidence that exists. I think that a woman has the right to control what's going on with her body. If we do not allow a human being to say what can and cannot be done to his or her body, that is akin to slavery. We must allow women to do that. Just last week, I had a woman who desperately wanted her pregnancy, but she was so sick that it was going to kill her. She had to make that decision. We all had to make that decision together. There are some women who come into my office, they have 4 other children. 2/3 of women who have abortions are mothers already. The first cited reason for having an abortion is financial, and the second is because they want to take care of their kids at home. I don't ask women why they're having an abortion. It's not my business. It's a personal decision. If they want to share it with me, I'm more than happy to discuss it with them. But this is about a woman's right and a woman's ability to take care of the family that she has.
So, Doctor, let me just ask you a question. Do you feel that the state does not have the right to interject? That's what I'm hearing from your testimony. Is that correct?
Can you clarify the question, interjecting?
Well, I mean that the state does not have the right to interfere with what the woman is going to do.
I do not think that the state should be deciding which procedures are done in which clinical scenario. The state is not legislating cardiac catheterizations, they're not legislating colonoscopies, they're not legislating plastic surgery, which is far more risky than having an abortion. And so this is not about the safety of women, this is about curbing their right to have an abortion.
And so who speaks for the unborn child? Because when it comes to a colonoscopy or any of the other procedures, you're talking to the person that would actually be submitting themselves to those procedures. Who speaks for the preborn child?
In the state of Rhode Island, you cannot do an abortion after viability, meaning you cannot do an abortion when the baby is able to survive outside of the womb. We only perform abortions on fetuses that cannot survive outside of the womb.
And what do you consider a heartbeat? And you prefer to refer to the preborn as a fetus, I get that. I prefer to refer to it as preborn once there's a discernible heartbeat. So are you saying that if there's a heartbeat, that does not necessarily mean that that's a person inside? That that's not a preborn baby? What is it?
So it's an embryo or a fetus, depending on the gestational age. And we have a heartbeat doesn't necessarily mean that you're alive in any stage of life, actually. There are people who are in the ICU who have absolutely no brain activity whatsoever, but they have a heartbeat and they are not considered alive. And so I hear what you're saying, I absolutely do. There are a multitude of things that make somebody alive. Being able to survive on your own, with or without medical help, is certainly one of them. And 5, 6, 7, 8-week fetus is certainly not able to, despite having cardiac activity. There are ectopic pregnancies. 2 weeks ago, I took out an ectopic pregnancy. It had a heartbeat. It was going to kill the woman that it was in, but it had a heartbeat.
And if someone is in the ICU or CCU, and they have the ability prior to going into the hospital to identify whether or not they want any heroic measures. And I'm just going to leave you with this one last thought, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time. But within the first 2 weeks that this esteemed body came together as a committee, we heard testimony after testimony on behalf of our non-human companions, identifying what was a mistreatment, talking about what should happen in a court of law if the animals were abused to the point of death, and yet we're sitting here and arguing whether or not a heartbeat in a preborn child should be determined in dismemberment, and I don't get it. I have to be honest with you. I've been an elected official 6 years before I ever came to the House of Representatives. The people in my district that I spoke to during my campaigns, even when I was on the city council, it was very important to them to know where I stood with regards to abortion. And I have to tell you that I just don't see how we can sit here and say that if there is a heartbeat And if the pre-human is able to feel, and I believe that they can feel pain, and I understand that you're saying that the science says not.
It's not based on
And I
any science.
understand that you're saying that the science doesn't agree with it, but the way that you believe, I believe that
you don't believe science. Science is a fact. It's something. Their beliefs are something else. Science is a fact. What I'm telling you is facts. It's not my beliefs whatsoever.
That's fine. That's fine, thank you.
And I want to let you know that I was not up here arguing whether a heartbeat, we had that
I
conversation.
understand, that's one of the next.
But I want to reiterate that this bill is about interfering with my ability to perform an incredibly safe procedure that is for legal abortion. It's legal. We're not debating, well, I guess with Dr. Jealous we are, but we're not debating whether abortion should be legal or not. We're debating whether or not you guys know better about how to perform a medical procedure than I do. And I've been doing this for the last 8 years. And so I'm saying that I don't think that you do, and I don't think that you would want any of your family members' doctors being told what to do by the government. And that's what I'm asking for the women for that.
The government tells people what to do all the time. Thank you very much.
Okay, I've got a few questions here. Let's start with Representative Knight.
Good evening. Thank you for coming to testify, and really thank you to everyone who comes out. I agree with the chair that there's no harder topics, and so I just acknowledge that going out. We've heard a lot about, we've heard some testimony from a witness who suggested twice that the doctor performing the abortion might perform the abortion in pursuit of a political agenda rather than doing their duties as they've been trained to do by tradition and science that has come down through the ages, thousands of years. So what I wanted to ask is, could you describe for us, well, the first question is this, and it's just simple, does the medical community have an opinion as to the ethic, as to whether or not a doctor can ethically perform an abortion?
The medical community is a broad term. I can speak on behalf of ACOG, which is the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and my governing body is who I look to in my training. And they have a statement that says abortion is healthcare. And so I infer from that they believe it is ethical for a physician to perform abortion.
Well, so let me just get down to the brass tacks. Okay, so you're a doctor, right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to help your patients, is that correct?
That is correct.
You're supposed to do no harm, is that correct?
That is correct.
And you certainly have organizations within the medical community, and I'm thinking the AMA, and I'm thinking the APA, and I'm thinking the American Academy of Dermatology, and all kinds of organizations that control how the practice of medicine is done in the United States. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and so those organizations necessarily have to take an opinion on a variety of issues as to whether or not certain procedures or certain practices are either ethical or not ethical. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And stepping outside the abortion world for a moment, there's, you know better than I, but I can certainly imagine that there are an extraordinary number of really, really, really difficult situations that doctors are faced with, and that they struggle with how to perform their duties in accordance with their oath and their ethics. And I mean, like the first one that comes up to mind is I don't know, maybe assisted suicide or organ harvest. On someone who is still breathing, but the brain isn't working, and you want to take that organ to save another life. I mean, these are all things that have been debated, ad nauseum by the medical community. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is abortion one of these issues that has been debated and talked about in the medical community? But your organization views the performance of abortion as ethical?
Yes.
So, when a doctor performs an abortion procedure, does I'd say the doctor is, pro-choice, politically active. Let me step back. Let's say the doctor is counseling the woman on whether or not she's going to get an abortion or not. And that doctor is politically pro-choice, politically active, right? Is it true belief? Would it be proper or improper for that doctor to guide that patient in accordance with their policies?
Entirely improper and unethical. Yes.
Inappropriate and unethical.
Entirely.
It's not something you do, correct?
Absolutely not. It serves me in no way for a woman to have an abortion.
Would it be unethical for a doctor to, once someone's decided to do an abortion, and then let's say they change their mind at the last minute, what would be the ethical the doctor to do?
To counsel the patient and not perform the procedure. If the patient has rescinded consent, absolutely you don't perform the procedure. And that applies to any surgery that I do.
And let's say, as was suggested by Mr. Kavanaugh before, that the patient comes up and says, "Man, 1 week before my due date, and I want an abortion." What would be the ethical thing for a doctor to say?
Those types of procedures don't exist. That is a myth in the anti-choice community. Late third trimester abortions do not exist, and so it wouldn't happen. But even if it could happen,
And the reason why I asked that last question is because the law that is being proposed by Representative Jello and myself as a co-sponsor has a distinct hard stop on whether or not abortion can occur when there's legal liability. No suggesting the other witnesses' testimony that a doctor might steamroll right over that, and that doctors who perform abortions will not be trusted. I don't know if you heard that, but that's essentially what he said or implied. So in this particular case, and I thank you for going with me down this trail a little bit, is it safe to say that the doctor who is performing the functions of the doctor must always adhere to the ethics of the profession?
I respectfully will say that I can only speak for myself and for the colleagues that I know, but we are taught to remove ourselves entirely from the practice of medicine. And we counsel the patient and engage in shared decision-making with them. Ethics is incredibly intertwined in what I do every single day. And so it is incredibly important for me to provide my patient with the care that she wants. As I kind of mentioned to you, I say if a woman says that she's happy with her pregnancy test, the word abortion is never said. She's happy with her pregnancy test. If she's not, then we start going down the path, we talk about why she isn't. And so you talk to a patient, you find out what her personal story is and where she is in life, and I have the skills to provide her with all the different things that she may need when she is pregnant. And I take pride in that. I take care of women from the moment that they have a home pregnancy test to the moment that I deliver their baby. And I take care of women from the moment they have that home pregnancy test and they end their pregnancy. And I consider that to be an incredibly ethical, honorable, and humbling thing to do with my life.